After thousands of cold call and hundreds of qualified meeting books for a tech sale company, I realized the difference between good SDR and top SDR. It really boiled down into two things. Top SDR, they're not trying to sell the software on a cold call, and more importantly, they're not wasting time on unqualified prospect and things that don't move the needles. In this training, I'm going to show you why most SDR training is backwards and the 6-step system that I use to exceed target and help my clients who recently landed SDR job at Toast and Cloudflare consistently booking qualified meetings. Here's the truth most SDR training never tell you. Hitting quota doesn't start on the call. It starts way long before you send an email or start your first cold call. It decided long before you ever dial a number or send an email. By the end of this training, you will have the exact framework that I used to hit quota and make a lot of commission with. This is the guy I wish I had when I first started as an SDR, because trust me, it was a struggle at the beginning. Let's dive in. First thing first, let me show you a typical day in the life as an SDR, and more importantly is the top SDR schedule.
But like what I'm sharing with you right now, it's a mindset. It's the foundation of everything. It's your mindset and your discipline that will maintain your performance. So building the mindset and discipline is key. And starting your morning right, it's also important.
So first thing first, when you start the day, assuming right now you already done the ramping period, right? You're functioning, like you're actually having a clear quota, you know what you need to do. When you start your day, like never check your email or like Teams or Slacks, whatever. To me, like SDR, there's never that like urgent things. Like we are not at a position that making $1 million decision for the whole company, you know? So there's no need to open your email first thing first, get distracted by all the information, all the group chat, you know. But then like you'd be like, okay, like what do you do in the morning then? The first thing you should do is eat the ugliest frog and do things that really move the needles. Here's what I mean. When you wake up in the morning, like this is like my real schedule, you know, this is what I do in the past. So first thing first, when I wake up, like this is what I do. I will open YouTube and then just like listen to all the motivation video. You could listen to Alex Hormozy, right? Like other people that you feel motivated from. For me, like I'm gonna show you this one very cool video that I don't know, somehow it like stumbled across my feed when I was a SDR. But I think like for the whole time I was a SDR, I was basically like watching gym the whole time, every morning. So this is one of it that I really like I recommend it for you guys. Like this is a channel I always listen to, and then like this is the recent one that I listened to and I was like, whoa, like it's actually pretty motivating. Even for me right now, like I'm no longer SDR, I'm an entrepreneur, which I even need more motivation in the morning. So, you know, like as you brush your teeth, as you are waking up, you know, like you should listen to something that get your brain ready for it. If you watch my other videos, I also talk about my movie. It's good to also watch my movie, and most importantly, you should do it first thing in the morning, and then followed by my movie, you can watch something motivation on YouTube. Basically, I used to start at 7 a.m. just to build my mindset, because that's the foundation of everything. Like if without this foundation, if you're not happy in life, you're not happy with yourself, you don't feel safe, there's no way you can perform in a cold call or like a cold outreach to get the result. And here's what I'm doing. Like what I'm doing here, it's like really get my brain ready. And then second is like understanding why, you know, everyone want to hit quota, but why do you want to hit quota, right? Like what is it doing it to you? Like what is it affecting you personally, right? So think about that, write it down. I'm a big fan of writing down things. Like in the past, I also have the mistake be like, okay, yeah, like I can just type, you know, like talk to ChatGPT with my audios. I find writing it down, it really triggered the creative side of your brain, and it really show like the impact, it's bigger when you write things down. So, and then like most importantly, you know, like visualize you are able to book meetings, visualize those like sense of excitement, being able to open the cold call with confidence and right tonality, getting the prospect to get curious and make them open up to you, and eventually secure the meeting. So all of these things like only take 30 minutes, you know, like really protect this time and really leverage the first 30 minutes after you wake up. And then I would open my work laptop, right, for also like do some call review for 30 minutes.
What is most important is your ability to cold call because that's your main channel, right?
Yeah.
Your ability to cold call, how you can ask the right question in the call, and then also your ability to send email that people will open.
I know this is like one of the ugliest frog, because like who want to listen to their own voice, right? Like when I first started, every time I had to like open Salesforce and then click inside and then listen to my very bad opening, it's like mind blowing, you know. But without reviewing yourself, like you will not improve. The worst things, like I write it here. The easiest way to become the worst SDR is to not change, right? And like or just follow company templates. So like that's very bad. Like if you want to be the top 1%, you gotta do the opposite of this. I know this is like one of the ugliest frog, because like who want to listen to their own voice, right? Like when I first started, every time I had to like open Salesforce and then click inside and then listen to my very bad opening, it's like mind blowing, you know. But without reviewing yourself, like you will not improve. The worst things, like I write it here. The easiest way to become the worst SDR is to not change, right? And like or just follow company templates. So like that's very bad. Like if you want to be the top 1%, you gotta do the opposite of this, which is like reviewing your calls and thinking about, okay, looking at your number, like what happened yesterday, how many calls that got connected, and also like what can you do better in these calls, right? Because like after you've done enough volume of cold call, you will know how to self-assess. And also very importantly, like it will be good to have other people, your manager or people that is in the top rep or your top reps to give you some advice, right? But you are your biggest cheerleader. Like you're supposed to review yourself and give yourself feedback first, and then if you need it, you can ask for help, right? Your manager and like other people, they're not available 24/7. So build the ability to review and then like give yourself feedback. It's also important. And also nowadays, like you can leverage AI, right? You can literally just drop the audio or the call on ChatGPT or like GenSpark, right? Like when I was an SDR, ChatGPT wasn't that well used yet. So like I was basically just like, you know, it's only me and my cold call, and then with knowledge that I learned to give myself feedback. Now, like if you're watching this, like you have big leverage. Like you can for sure like put yourself at a higher level, right? Just through like reviewing, you know, like you're here and you want to get to here. This is a gap you have to close. So what do you need to review? Like essentially you want to know, okay, like what are the things that would pass the gatekeeper, right? Like for example, if you're calling some director or VP level, they might have a secretary. What kind of things that you answer or get them to get you past the gatekeeper? And then second, it's like your tonality, which we're going to talk about, you know, so stick with this video. We're going to really show you like what is the right tonality for the first 10 seconds to make the prospect lower their disarm, right? Lower their guard down, focus on them, make them feel like, okay, I have something in this call. Like make them feel like, okay, like this call is relevant to me. Like I should pay attention. I'm not going to hang up, you know? And then thirdly, it's like you want to see what other good qualified. And thirdly, you want to see what other discovery question that led to meetings, right? Because like there's good call and there's bad call, and you should review both, right? Understand what makes a good call, and then from the bad ones, like you need to know, okay, what can you improve? And most importantly, you know, like there will be always objection. Be like, okay, send me an email, or I'm not available right now. I gotta go. I have a meeting, whatever, all that. Like you gotta see like how did you handle this objection, right? Because like knowing it on script level, it's different than actually executing, right? And doing cold call. That's why like people need coaching. That's why people need actual guidance to basically make the information alive, right? And then like make them be able to like and translate it into a real execution. And then like most importantly, like what is the highest connection rate during what time on the day, which I'm gonna tell you as well. Like I'm gonna show you my secrets here. Okay, so after you review your call for 30 minutes, then we want to learn. It's still like we're not even doing work yet, you know, like, but all these preparation and review, it matters a lot. Because like without these prep, if you just blast out 200 the calls, it would not give you the results. Like I guarantee you, without these like internal reflection and just learning from top performers, it's very hard because like without the knowledge, you're basically just using your blood, passion and time, right? And like energy, patience to just like trial and error again and again. And just know like us as human, like we have cycle. Like there's that days that you feel like doing the hard work, but there's days that not. But this strategy is basically making your day calmer. Like it's always like this at the certain level consistently. But like if you don't have strategy, you're basically like up and down like this every day, and it's not good. Like it's not gonna get you consistent results. So very importantly, I will spend some time looking at like, okay, like who is the top reps, you know, in my team right now, and what are they doing good? I will want to listen to their connected call. How do they talk in the first 10 seconds? What kind of question they ask, right? And then how do they transition from discovery to actually asking for a meeting? Most importantly, like what is their energy level? Can I mimic their tone of voice? Because like when I was working at the team, I was the only girl in my direct team, and it was difficult because like guys talk differently, right? They have different tones, and as a girl, like I also need to find my own style. But learning from the top people always give you some things to learn. Even though like very quickly I was already number one, but I still listen to other people's call because I know no matter how good I am, there's always things I can learn from others. And very importantly, like you should do role play, especially when you're in the ramping period. You should always role play, and it's good to do daily role play as well. At least 30 minutes. You can role play with your other SDR, preferably like role play with top SDR. You know, they are the top one, and because there's a clear reason why they're top SDR versus like people at the bottom, and you want to learn from the top, right? And also like role playing with your manager or AE also works. So it's very important to do it daily during when you're ramping, and then like once you start doing the job, right? When you have a clear quota after you finish the ramping, you might not need to do it every day, but I used to do at least 3 times a week. Then now, like, you know, I used to like to start at 7 a.m. to prep myself because like I'm a morning person. I like to like get things done. If you're not, it's fine. But most importantly, you should just follow these 3 call blocks. Like this is basically where the work happens, right? I try to call, the best time I find to call people is to call them before 9 a.m. Because like most people, they actually start their job at 8:30, especially like the higher they are. Because like by the time 9 hits, they are in constant meeting. Like you would never get a hold of their time. So like sometimes I find like calling them at 8 a.m. or 8:30, just a little bit ahead of their day, it really works. The pickup rate, it's way higher. And if you kind of miss that time slot, like it's fine. Do the 11 to 12:30. It's like during lunchtime, people are slowing it down, right? Just to grab lunch. You can catch them in between like their lunch break or their walks. And then this is very critical. Like I would really lock down the lunch break hours. And then like at the end, if your call is still pretty low, right? Let's say the standard it's 60 and you're still at like, I don't know, like 40, then you should really leverage the last hour of the day, which is from 4:30 to 5:30 to sometimes you can stretch it to 6, but like you don't want to call them too late as well. Cause like some people have work phone. If you call them when they're already at home, then it's kind of like, you know, like you feel tension and they don't like it too. So 5:30, 5:40 something, it's like a good stretch. So, you know, like each hour you're supposed to be able to hit like 20, 30 calls, right? So throughout the whole day, if you do these 3 call blocks, you're able to get at least like 60 to 80 calls. I remember when I first started, I would blast out at least like 100 and 150 calls a day. Because at the beginning, you always want to start with volume because you don't know what works for you and you don't have a very mature strategy yet. But like lucky for you, like you're watching my video and learning all my experience and like what I learned. But in general, still start with some volume just to get yourself like get used to this job, right? And also like find your style too. Yeah, and then I will dive into like what exactly like makes a qualified meeting and then who you should call to get that. This is like something I always tell people when people ask me about like SDR advice. Never waste your time. Like first thing first, like like in general, I just hate corporate meeting. I find sometimes like some team meetings or like just like meetings are useless. It's wasting time. When I was an SDR, I protect my time so much. In the morning, I try to avoid meeting because that's when I'm most energetic and I want to do the hardest work possible, right? I want to get all of those things done first before I can just like, like go on a meeting, just to report to the manager, be like, oh, I did 60 call today and then I hit 10% connection. Like those things are part of the job, right? But they're not the things that move the needle. They will not get you meetings or hit the quota or commission. So think smart, protect your time, and then you can push back as well, right? If you feel like you're not going to benefit from any of these meetings, you should tell your manager and just don't go. Now you have the foundation, you understand the day. Let's get into the 6 steps, right? What do you actually need to do to maximize your effort so you can book meetings, right? Step 1, if they are not the right person, like get them off the call. Because there's time, like especially at the beginning when you're learning, like you just feel like, let me call this person, like he looks qualified, right? But it's very important for you to first understand what is your ICP, right? Ideal customer profile. What actually makes them check all the boxes and become your ICP. That's important. Like you should know about that during your ramping period, and you should like have a very clear understanding of like what is your company actually targeting, like who are they. Then you want to find the right people. Because for SDR, you're actually booking meeting for your AE, right? Like if they don't approve or qualify the meeting, like you're basically wasting the work. Like if you're just booking meeting with unqualified people or wrong people, it kind of breaks your relationship with your AE as well. So it's very important to spend your energy at the right people. So I used to work at environmental health and safety compliance software. I know it's a very niche kind of software, but like we were the top market leader, but we were the market leader in that niche back then. And what I do, so how I make sure I call the right people is to use this 2-tier method that I learned and created. So instead of wasting time, convincing a safety coordinator, which they're just like general workers on the bottom, you should do this instead. So here's the strategy here's what 2 tiers approach about. So first thing, like you want to call tier 1 people first, just to get information. And then second call, just to get to the decision maker to book meetings.
Like it took me a month to figure out this. And when I figured out, like I was surprised everyone in the team never know this. This is a big strategy. No one do this. So if you can do this, you're already way ahead of your peers. But you can get to them first because there's only 1 or 2 of them. If you get them, the first phone call you call them and then they already give you objection or they hate you, then this is game over. So use these guys to practice your talk track, practice the way your ability to ask questions. And then once you gather all the stuff, when you talk to them, go straight to the point, right? You basically bring the pain to their face, Position yourself as someone that understands them, and why wouldn't they want to meet with you? Like after you're hearing this strategy, do you think it's do you feel way less stressed? This sounds way more simple.
It does.
Here's how the script is. So when you call tier 1, it means like, for example, if you're selling a safety software, right, to help them make sure they are meeting safety compliance, tracking incidents. So you will want to call like coordinator, associates in the safety team. And here's what you can talk to them. You can just be like, hey, Emily, and then she would be like, oh, okay, yes, this is her. And then you can just be like, I'm calling, here's how the script is. So when you call tier 1, it means like, for example, if you're selling a safety software, right, to help them make sure they are meeting safety compliance, tracking incidents. So you will want to call like coordinator, associates in the safety team. And here's what you can talk to them. You can just be like, hey, Emily, And then she'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, yes, this is her. And then you can just be like, yeah, like, I'm calling because we work with similar company like you to help them streamline EHS process. I'm not sure this is relevant to you yet, and I'm not trying to sell you anything, I just want to ask you a couple questions if that's okay, and then like you're not actually asking her permission, like you mainly like softly just want to open her up, disarm her. Then you should like get into your first question straight up, because I never really asked for permission. Like, of course they will say no, like it's a cold call, like you call them out of nowhere. Like asking permission, it just shows that like you're like pretty new in this game, and that's just not the proper way to like disarm and get them to open up, like mimic the tonality that I did. Like I almost sounds like confused, and I also sound like I'm actually like know them, right? Like I didn't call like be like, okay, Emily, this is Yvonne from Quality, and like sounds like a telemarketer. I call in a way, I speak in a way that it's like a little confused, make them want to help me more, and make them curious. Like she might be like, okay, like who's this? Like what is she saying? Just to get them to like stay in the call. That's your first goal for the first 10 minutes. First, disarm them, get them to stay on the call, and then third is like get them to open up slowly. Here's the important information you should find out from this conversation, because like very importantly, you calling tier 1 people, they're not the decision maker. You don't want to book a meeting with them, but you want these information, all right? Because it's hard to find out online, and these are your leverage to book the meetings. So you want to know like what are they currently using to track incident. So if you're selling a safety software, and like what system are they using for like safety compliance right now, and how long have you guys been using it, right? And then like who typically make decision for like safety software at your company? Like you see the tonality that I'm asking. It's like it's not like I'm speaking like a very articulate way, because like you want them to feel like, okay, like you're actually curious, and you're not just like random like salesperson that she also talked to in the past, like you want to sound different, and also you want them to give you the answer. So after you gather the information, you also want to target. Like in the past, when I was calling company, they're usually enterprise. There's like hundreds and thousands of people in the company, but I want to know like who is actually the right decision maker. I should like, like basically link up with my AE and the company. So I would basically ask them, okay, like thanks for those information, Emily. Like, do you mind telling me like who actually in charge of the safety department, who can possibly benefit from learning about a software like Cordy? Sometimes they will tell you, sometimes they don't. So once you gather enough information from tier 1 people, then let's go to tier 2. Essentially, at this point, you should know about the company's pain point, who's the decision maker, and what do they care about. So here's what you should say at the beginning of the call. You can be like, hey John, Jen mentioned that you oversee the compliance technology decision. Is that right? And then like you let them respond, right? And then you can be like, yeah, like I work with your competitor, name drop. And Jen also mentioned that you guys are currently handling specific XYZ pain. I'd like to show you guys, and before you go into further, you should test their temperature. You want to see how he's responding to it, and then listen to what they say. And then you can be like, okay, yeah, like I would like to show you how similar company like yours solve this problem. Do you have 15 minutes? Well, like that's the general structure. Obviously, you gotta stop and listen to their tone, right? If they're still warm, if they're still disarmed, and then you can move forward into booking the meeting. So here's a very unpopular opinion, but I think it works. So essentially, if you are just starting as an SDR, like the first thing you should do is to find out who your AE is. There's times that like company, they're hiring for people, but they haven't have a whole roadmap on how to train you yet. But for your first step, you should really find out who's your account executive, and then try to connect with them, because they are essentially your buddy, right? Like they are more important than your hiring manager or the manager you're reporting to. So my experience is, if you were to spend time to build relationship from like your boss, your peers, or account executives, you should spend way more time and nurturing with your relationship with account executives. My success, like part of my success is actually come from back then I was able to support one AE like very closely. Like we have weekly meetings at the beginning. Let's take a step back. Like at the beginning when we first met, I already know, okay, like out of the 3 AE I have, one of them, like it's very collaborative. He's willing to share his account strategy with me, like his territory detail. And I'm actually learning a lot, you know, and I can see that he's willing to invest in a BDR and work with me. So then like I started to invite him to weekly meetings so we can talk about, okay, like what account are we targeting this week, and then how did things go last week, versus like they are account executives that are not as collaborative. Like they don't want to have someone else like booking meeting for them, right? So like for those, like I'll just basically ignore them. And obviously you don't want to be an SDR for all the time, right? Eventually, like if you want a tech sales career, if you really want to grow into an AE position within the same company, the fastest ways to do it is first become a top performers, right? Like you gotta show up on the leaderboard so people are actually noticing you, and when there's a promotion come up, like they would think about you, right? So because like because like most of the time you're working in a huge team, like there's like 10-20 of you guys, right? So it's only through your achievement, like sitting at the top of the leaderboard would get people to notice you. And then second is you gotta take the initiative to build relationship with the AE manager. It's not your boss. It's like you have to go out there to look at, okay, like if you want to become, let's say, small medium AE, like who's the hiring manager, right, in that role? And what I did in the past is after 6 months like being like number one in my whole team, I was just thinking like, okay, like when can I become AE? So the first thing I did was I find out, okay, like John is actually the AE manager. And what I did was I first reached out to him on Teams, you know, just like start a conversation, let him know who I am. And then I was asking like very detailed question, you know, I was telling him like how I'm collaborating with his reps, and like I want to like have a coffee chat with you, you know, like just to start a conversation. And obviously like during the coffee chat, you're supposed to ask very good question to get him like feel like, okay, like yeah, like she's not just a random person wanting to like get my attention. Like I was actually doing a lot of research, understanding, okay, like what's going on with their territory and how can we actually bring more business, right? It's through like asking question. Like the selling part is almost like come from asking good question. And eventually we were able to start a weekly coffee chat. And if you wanted to continue growing, like that's the path. Okay, so step number 2, it's setting the frame. Essentially the first 10 seconds in your cold call or like when you write emails is the same thing. The first 2 sentences that you're writing, it's super important, and we call it the hook. You know, like you're actually trying to get their attention and make them like hook into what you're saying. So essentially like 70%, like if we were to break down the tone and words, right, 70% is actually your tonality and the 30% is just like what you say. So if you were to role play with people, like I would focus more on practicing your tone of voice, right? How do you say the sentence out loud instead of thinking about, okay, like what is the right words to say? Because if you think about it, like nowadays when you watch TikTok used to only have like 1-2 minute short form things that like get you excited, right? And nowadays like there's longer videos, like there's like 10 minutes videos on TikTok. And think about like what actually makes you watch the whole video. It's actually the first 3 seconds, and that's the hook that stop people from scrolling. Same thing in a cold call, like you want to get their attention. You want them to not get distracted by what they were doing, right? And then listen to you. So I thought instead of telling you what is the right script to do, like I'm gonna tell you what are some typical like very bad example you shouldn't do. So like I've seen a lot of SDR, they would start a call and be like, oh hey John, like this is like I see a lot of bad example in the past, and like this is one of it. It's like they sound super robotic, be like, okay, hey John, like this is Emily from XYZ company, do you have a minute? Like this is like almost game over. If you ever start a call like this, like they will hang up for sure, you know, because first you sound like everyone else, and then second mistake I see all the time is SDR, they would pitch the person on the phone. They would tell them about, oh my god, like our software is so good, like here's ABC. But the thing is, whoever talked the most in the call will lose. So as a reps, you know, like no matter when you are a SDR or AE, right, once you actually run a sales meeting, whoever that asked the least, whoever that say the least, it would get the most information out. And information is basically the most critical things to help you close the deal. So make sure like you practice your tonality in your role play and don't pitch and don't talk too much. Whenever you feel like you're talking a lot, like you should tell yourself to shut up, basically, you know, like write on a memo notes, like write on the post-it notes on your next to your computer, just to remind yourself like you shouldn't talk more than the prospect. Okay, so step number 3, the discovery roller coaster. So most of the time, like most of the sales training you've seen online, they would always tell you to understand the prospect's current pain and then understand their future pain, right? Like you see the sequence here, like they always start with pain first and then like get them excited with the dream outcome. But here's the exact change that I did. It took me from booking 0 meeting 2 or 3 a week. Essentially, most of the SDR or AEs, they do it backwards. They're always trying to start with their current situation, understand, and then end with the future goal. But here's why it fails. If you start with pain, prospect will get defensive, especially in a cold call. So if you end with pain, they will get motivated and take action. So here is the roller coaster method. So first, start with their goals and initiative. And then second things, understand their current process. What are they doing? How are they solving these things? And then end with the gap and pain point that you discover through question. So here's some example you can ask to extract the future state question. It's like what are your main compliance initiative this year? What would ideal safety reporting look like for your team? If you could, like how would you want the incident management to work? You know, like asking those questions is to get them feel like, okay, like, oh, this person that is calling me randomly, like they actually care about what I care about. You know, these are the goals and target they are spending 24 hours thinking about. So start with that, and then you can build a gap by asking their current state, right? And you can ask it like that, like how are you currently handle incident report, and what system are you using for safety compliance tracking nowadays? And can you walk me through your current process when an incident happened? So now you have their current state, right? You get them excited, but you're also reminding them here is the real problem that you're facing. So in order to widen the gap, right, to make your meetings or whatever you're directing them into more severe, you should ask these gap questions. Like, what is the biggest challenge with your process right now? How much time is your team spending on manual reporting? And what happened when you need to pull compliance report for an audit? You know, like these are the questions that making them feel like, oh my God, like this is a serious problem. Like I want some help, you know, and it just happened like you are the solution there. So this method is very good because it actually put them in a mindset that thinking, oh, we need to solve this, instead of like making them feel like, yeah, like this salesperson just trying to find problem, right? Like I don't really care. Okay, so step number 4. So once the conversation is going well and you're actually asking good question to build a gap, then eventually you want to direct them and then let them know like your outcome, right? You want to book a meeting with them. So essentially this step is very critical because like from my experience, if you let them like get off the phone call, it's just so hard to get them again. Like if you call them again, they will recognize your number, right? They will not pick up anymore. And so try to get an answer. It's either yes or no, right? While you have them on the phone. So how you can do it is basically like towards the end of the call, right? Or after they get disarmed, then you should tell them, yeah, like based on what you told me, like how we help XYZ company could actually benefit you and, you know, their boss. And then you can just be like, and what I can do is, you know, like before I actually like walk you further on what I can do, like, can we do like agreement? Like, we would like to set up some times with you, you know, like just to see if we could help. But can we be clear that like you can either tell me yes or no, you know? So, and in order to build your authority, you can tell them like, I have talked to many company like yours facing similar problem like all day, every day. Sometimes like here they tell me like send me an email and then they never get back to me. So I'm sure like you're not one of those person, you know? So just curious, like, so if we were able to book you guys in next Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern time, would you guys be able to meet with my account executive? Like, he's like specialized into, you know, XYZ solution you're selling. So yeah, like would you guys be open to that? You know, so it's just like really to get them to think it's either a clear yes or no. Like, no is the second best yes. It's better if they tell you on the phone that like they're not interested, they're totally fine with their current solution, then like you have to keep chasing them, right? Like, there's no point to give them another 10, 20 cold calls if they are not the right person or there's just like no pain at the moment. So step number 5, like after you get the problem, right? After you have the framing with them, making sure they understand, okay, like you have to either give me a yes or no answer, then you can tell them a little bit more about the meeting and how you can help them. And we call it a 3-pillar meeting pitch. So essentially you want to start with their problem, you know, like, because like there's no sale, like if there's no pain, they would never have sales. So always trying to use their exact words that they tell you, right? Like, let's say they was like, oh my God, we're spending 20 hours pulling incident report. You can say the exact words they told you, and then you gotta make them see the cost of not solving it, right? So like, yeah, like how like have you guys been fined recently because like you didn't submit the incident report at the right time? You know, like just to make them realize and feel the pain of paying that bills. And then at the end, you know, like it's very naturally, then you can just position your solution, which is the meeting that you're selling, as a like answer to all their problem. So here's the example. Like, yeah, John, like you mentioned you're spending 10 hours a week on manual incident report, right? Solving XYZ problem. That's probably causing you like 2 to 3 days of strategic work every month to do that. So like my specialty actually works with company like yours, and they were able to cut down time by 80%. Is that worth 15 to 30 minutes to look into this just to see if we can possibly help? You know, and then shut up, like don't talk, don't say more. Like, cause like the more you say it, the more you talk them out of the meeting. Like that's very important. Like after you deliver the key point, like you should just let them talk. So essentially like after all that hard work, you're basically getting closer and closer to booking a meeting. And what you should do is you should excel all the questions they might have first. You know, like one thing they always ask is like, yeah, like they're not really sure like what's the meeting about, right? Like, so then you can tell them high level how the agenda of the meeting is, right? And then make sure like you ask them all, like you let them ask all the questions you have, and then you can, you know, assume the close. You can just be like, yeah, so like it does sounds like we can help. Like I can send you a meeting invite. Like, what's your email? You know, and most of the time, like at your company, you have a Zoom info or other software that pulling their email, so you don't actually need to get their email from their mouth. Like, what you want to do is confirm the email on the phone with them. You know, you can just be like, yeah, like I have an email here. Like, it's johnxyz@company.com. Is that right? You know, like you just gotta get them, like you just wanna make it easier for them to like book the meeting with you, right? And once they say yes, then you want them to also confirm if they get the meeting or not, right? You can just be like, yeah, like I just sent over the meeting invites. Can you see it in your inbox? And then they was like, yeah, like I see it, okay. And then you can just be like, oh yeah, like it would be great if you can just confirm, and then we're locked down for that time. Okay, so congratulations, like you just booked a meeting. And one important lesson that I learned is whenever you book a meeting, you get so excited, like your brain is releasing dopamine. But here's the critical steps to make me like become top 1% all the time. It's when I book a meeting, I don't stop. I essentially use the dopamine to keep working. So here's the trick. So whenever you book a meeting, like I would just, like you can celebrate, you can tell your friend you did it, and you should look at what other prospects that are similar to the company you just booked meeting, right? Because if similar company, like if you are able to book meeting with a company A, if company B is in a similar industry, similar sizes, they should probably have similar problem. So you should use that dopamine and like the excitement that you just got and start prospecting those company next. Those are the 6-step system that got me from booking 0 meeting to being number 1 in my team the whole time. And my biggest lesson is you don't just stare at the result, right? And feel like, oh my God, like this is impossible to hit quota. Instead, you should reverse engineer of your goal. If your target is 10 meetings a month, right? So how can you break it down by week? Like each week is probably just like 2 or 3 meetings. So in order to get to the 2 or 3 meetings, like what do you need to do every day? Like focus on the leading indicator versus like target. And trust me, like every step and every reps that you did count. So if you're able to get value out of this video, make sure you check out this video to learn more about tech sales.